how many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. I'll tell you what, a lot has transpired over the weekend.
Yes.
And, there were the planes being loaded up with illegals and on their way to Colombia, man. And the Colombian president not so excited about that. So he said, no, we're not going to take him. So as Trump said, tariff, you're going to take that, and we're going to expel some of your people. Well, now that I think about it, I'll give you my presidential jet.
Yes, I know. I would read to you his first of all, he says, and by the way, the planes, when they were flying the prisoners back to Colombia, they were like halfway there when they got word, no, you can't land. So I guess they were told to turn back, and so President Trump issued that statement, which just nailed Colombia. I mean, we're going to raise you 25%, and then next week we'll raise it to 50%.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's no end in sight to this.
And Bill, what do they grow in Colombia that's so important to us?
Well,
coffee beans. That's right.
Yes.
I wonder if that would affect our Jim and Bill's Right Side coffee. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because we cannot get our coffee bean. Well, we can't get it from the left. We don't want to become left side coffee, so we're right side. We'd have to grow our own beans, Jim.
Oh, that would be a treat. Hey, listen, if you haven't tried Jim and Bill's Right Side coffee, now would be a great time. You might want to stock up. You might want to get a whole bunch of bags of Right Side coffee because, I mean, the price hasn't changed, and who knows if we end up doing sanctions on Colombia, who knows how much it's going to cost for coffee in the near future.
Might want to do a run on the Right Side coffee.
Yes, and you get it at rightsideshop.com, rightsideshop.com. I want to repeat that again just in case you were scrambling for a pen or a pencil because, it's early, it's Monday. You didn't have one near your radio or your iPhone or whatever you listen to us on. It's rightsideshop.com, rightsideshop.com. We have a medium roast and a medium decaf roast for those of you who can't have the caffeine. You'll love it. It's great. Plus, we have Juan, Jose, and the Border Crossers to sing the jingle.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Great jingle it is, too. Again, rightsideshop.com. Get it before Colombia is closed.
Yeah, and they didn't have to be on that plane, so they're really happy guys right now.
That's true.
Well, we're glad we're not on that plane because if we were, they might have said, well, we can't land, so you're going to have to jump out and flap your arm.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. The president of Colombia, when he heard the sanctions being imposed, suddenly he says, I was just kidding. Hey, senor, what are you talking about? It was just a little joke amongst friends. So I will send the presidential plane up to fly those prisoners back to Colombia. It'll be marvelous. We'll give them cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. We'll give them a parade when they land in Colombia.
I think the presidential plane in Colombia is a crop duster, but I'm not sure.
It'll be a
lot
lot of
hanging on the wings, It's like,
No, they'll love flying back on that DC-3. Anyway,
let's hope both engines stay running during
it was
the
a
flight.
great plane in 1940. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Then after he capitulated, he wrote this nasty diatribe. It was just like, hey, you can't bully us around kind of stuff, and I know I will die, but I will live on in my people. He's like, if I read the rant to you that this Colombia president wrote after he capitulated, you think I was crazy. But you can find it online if you're looking for a good laugh. In the meantime, he has capitulated, but who knows whether it will continue. These guys, they change on a dime. Mm-hmm. And
Capitulation is a strange thing.
And the
It
other
really
thing,
is.
the other thing, Bill, I don't. They're not talking about this, but the president of Mexico turned back a plane.
Yeah, I know that was just before, but didn't did he turn it back or
Oh,
did
she.
he?
It's a she.
Or
It's
did
a
she
shine
turn it
bomb
back,
or whatever.
or is it did it have some second thoughts?
Well, I don't know whether she had second. Well, she was. I don't know whether she turned it back. I don't know, to be honest with you. But the point is, I think she probably looked at what happened in Colombia and figured, well, maybe we just don't make an
You
issue
might
out
want
of
to
it
do
right
it.
now.
Yeah, and she can kind of keep her her I don't know how you say masculine, feminine. That she's a masculine
She
female.
can keep up appearances. How's that?
Yeah, she can keep up her appearance. Yeah,
Yeah.
let him capitulate and.
But it's interesting, folks. Don't feel bad for Colombia or Mexico. It's not like we're dumping strangers on their doorstep. These are Colombians that we're sending back to Colombia. Okay? It's their people, criminals or not. It's their people, and it's their problem, not ours. We shouldn't have to absorb their criminals and their lunatics. In the meantime,
That's the truth. So yeah, look. He's making some noise, and the left is doing everything they can to find anything they can to sit there and accuse him of every. They're making fun of him for whatever reason. I guess there was a misspelling on Colombia where they had a U and a U instead of the O in Colombia. Okay, a faux pas. You know how many mistakes Biden made, including the most recent before he left, where he rubber stamped an executive order. It was over the U.S. Steel deal where he had the wrong company on it and all that from a previous executive order for something entirely different. It's like,
whoops.
like those little whoopsies. You're making fun of him.
Well, the other thing is this: what do we all use when we text nowadays? We talk into our phones, right? So we'll actually dictate, and I'll be honest with you, and I was going to talk to you about this. My cohort in crime here, he always dictates his text messages to me, and sometimes, and he has a great voice, right? Sometimes it confuses the phone, and I get garble at the end, and I think that's what happens, to be honest with you, with Trump. You probably don't.
Yeah, and let me tell you something.
Yes.
No. I know that, and I do. Sometimes you sit there and go blah 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 blah, and then you hit send, and then you don't look at it, and then you pick it up later. Well, I haven't heard back from him.
Well, it's because
there's why. There's why right there.
Yes.
It's like there's a big.
Yes.
It's a.
And furthermore, I went out and gobbledygoody.
It's an AI.
What?
You know what? Speaking of AI,
Yes.
there's two things that you should be aware of. Number one, they changed the algorithm. So, like if you do a podcast or you do anything with audio, they've changed a frequency algorithm inside, but also they put AI in. Now, this AI listens to everything you're doing, and it will take out room noise, cancel echo in there.
Really?
It'll adjust to the frequency of your voice to make you sound AI perfect. Well, it also throws out portions of your voice like mine. It takes that low end,
Which is,
and so I'll be like that.
yes. Yes.
Everything in between just got thrown away because the AI said, that's no good. Get it out of here. But, like right now, for
Yes.
purposes,
No, I
I'll
want
pick
you
up
to
a harmonica.
Yeah, right now, I have to do play-by-play because they probably won't hear it. My cohort in crime, Mr. Bill Knight, the musician that he is, has
I'm not a musician.
Has
This
a
will
Horner harmonica in his hands. And right now, Bill is going to play the Horner harmonica for all of you to hear. Mr. Knight?
Ready?
Mr.
Here
Knight?
we go. See, I can't even get it going.
See? Now, I want to explain something to you folks.
Yeah.
You're saying, well, where is he? Well, he's playing the harmonica at his end.
It's not going anywhere. Now, I can hear it in my headphones, and it sucked, by the way.
Yes,
because you caught me off guard. I had to grab and go, oh, geez.
Oh, yes.
Either way, I can just.
The
And
AI
you didn't hear
is
anything.
canceling out the music from his harmonica from his end. So
we've noticed that too, like when I do the Hasta La Vista Baby or We're Out of Here, I'll go up and register, and
Yes.
it goes, oh, that's garbage. Get rid of it. So it's causing havoc. Now, I do other things besides this podcast stuff.
Yes, you do.
The music and stuff.
Yes, you're very
And
wealthy.
all of a sudden, there's about 130 guys on this project.
Yes.
And they're all over the country going, we can't do our stuff. What do we do? And the engineer's going, he's pulled out whatever hair he had and going, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we had to find.
But see, these are the nerds. The nerds at these different
computer geeks.
Yeah, at these different companies who said, "Oh, we can make this sound so much better. We can develop a computer program that will take out all the noise, all the echo, all of the bad things in audio, so that the audio is pristine." But it's not, because it's not sophisticated enough to discern between what is needed and what is not needed in the audio. So.
Now, it's also on, what is it, Microsoft Edge. As a matter of fact, I forget what it's called, but if you pull up that browser down at the bottom, there's a little thing down there, and it listens all the time. And you can sit there, and they're trying to push it. It's like a little AI assistant, and it's like the Alexa, but you can talk to it, and it can do AI research for you. And it is the strangest, scariest thing you've ever heard in your life. And...
Well, the scary thing about this, folks, is that you don't have any privacy anymore. If you have a cell phone, your phone's listening all the time. All the time.
I know we're kind of off track here because you had something else we want to do. So, quickly, I'll just, I'll mention when we talk about the AI and everything. And, there was the attack on TikTok. The left wanted to take down TikTok,
right.
So they did that. Now there's a lady out of, I think, Illinois or somewhere up in that area of the country, a Democrat. She now wants to go after your Wi-Fi routers that are sold on Amazon because they're from China, and that they can get into all your business and wreak havoc, and we got to ban those. And I'm like going, man, this sounds like something that the Democrats were accusing the Republicans of xenophobia.
Well, actually, when they accuse you of something, usually it's something they're doing. So that's
they're guilty of.
Yeah.
So they were probably guilty back then. Look, there's probably concerns.
What I'm concerned about.
Backyard.
What I'm concerned about is the safety of our president.
Well, yeah.
A young woman recorded it's a vulgar rant, and the vulgarities have been edited out of it. But she definitely doesn't want Trump to be the president or to be alive. I want you to hear exactly what she has to say.
All you your Glocks and your switches and your shiesties, we need you right now at the White House. We're not doing that grazing his skin, his ears, okay? We're going full-blown Lincoln, full-blown Kennedy right now. Like, off with that mother head. I'm sorry, I know we're not supposed to wish death upon people, and it doesn't matter, which side they're on, blah, blah, blah. No. I don't give a anymore. I don't give up anymore. And you obviously know that because I'm posting this. Off with it. Someone get up there. I need someone with precision that knows what they're doing. I'm about to call up the Wyans in Beaumont, Texas, because of what's going on. And I don't know. I mean, maybe if you shoot him, maybe the next president will give you a pardon for it and you'll be released out of jail. So,
Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, she belongs in jail. First, if she's on Facebook, they can find out who she is and where she is. And the Secret Service should be knocking on her door today and putting her in handcuffs.
They've already knocked on her door. She should be in handcuffs and behind bars. But unfortunately, now we'll go back to the election. The inauguration, Trump had record viewers. I think it was 80.1 million people, 80.7 million people watched, and they're still counting. So the vote was overwhelming, too. I think one of the highest in history, if not the highest in history. The majority of people want Trump in. So the left is in the minority, but the left, this is not the first time I've heard this.
Right.
I've heard this from well-respected lefty people, and I'm going, I didn't know that they actually felt that way.
Because you know who she looks like and sounds like?
Who?
She sounds like AOC, and she looks like AOC in this video. It's not AOC, okay?
No, it's not. But AOC is radical like that. I don't think she's that stupid.
No.
But if you were to do something like that, and I'll be very nice about this, be careful what you do and what you wish for, because you are the minority. And that is a radical thing. When we were supposedly the minority and you won the White House, we know you stole it now. The evidence is out. But let's just put it this way. We wouldn't say or do something like that. But if you do something like that to Trump and you threaten any of us or do anything to any one of us, God have mercy on your soul. And if you don't believe in God, you will at Judgment Day.
Yeah, I'm afraid that you want to light the fire that causes a real civil problem in this country.
That's it.
Do that. I want to play this for you because it kind of relates. CNN's Harry Enton was talking about the popularity of President Trump. Listen to this.
Look, the American people really like what they're seeing, at least compared to where Donald Trump started 8 years ago, right? All right, this is Donald Trump's net approval rating. This is Reuters, Ipsos. It's among adults. It was taken the first few days of this administration. Look here. Back in January 2017, Donald Trump became the first president in history to start his presidency with a net negative approval rating. Look at where we are now in January 2025. Considerably better at plus 6 points. That's up 9 points. To borrow a Donald Trump phrase, this is big league. This is a sign that the American people, at least initially, like what they're seeing. And so you see right here, more Americans approve of Donald Trump's job than disapprove. And that is very much unlike what we saw 8 years ago.
So compare the rating now to the entire first term.
Yeah, so it's not just that he's doing better than where he was doing 8 years ago. It's that he's doing better than he ever did during his entire first administration. So I again look
He never was over +3?
He was never over +3. The highest rating his highest ever net approval rating was +3 in March of...
Your choice of photo is quite
He likes
amazing.
What he's seeing. He's smirking at the American media.
He just doesn't like you.
Maybe not, although he should like these numbers and the way I'm presenting them. You look at January 2025, look at that. Again, you get +6. So Donald Trump isn't just in a better position than he was 8 years ago at this point. He's in a better position than he was at any point during his entire first term. Things have very much turned around. This is a very different Donald Trump. He's leading a very different administration, the way he's attacking things, and the American public is very much more in line with him than they were at any point during his entire first term.
I would say, correction, this is not a very different Donald Trump. This is a very different Donald Trump as being viewed by voters in this
In the
moment.
way he's going about things with Susan Wiles leading things. I think he is, going at things in a much less disorganized fashion, much more organized.
Take me back in history.
Take you back in history. So it was so interesting to me that Donald Trump's first net approval rating of his second term is higher than his entire first term. And I was interested, has that ever happened? Has the second term net approval rating in the first month, have you ever had a higher rating than any net approval rating during the entire first term? Donald Trump is the only...
I have a really hard time believing this.
This is 100% true. I went back. I love spreadsheets. Donald Trump is the first guy ever whose net approval rating in the first month of his second term is higher than any rating that he had as an entire first term, Kate Baldwin. This is true. I don't make stuff up. The numbers are the numbers.
I believe you in nothing except when you have it in the wall, and then I believe everything.
Then you gotta love Kate Baldwin. She doesn't want to really believe it. I find it hard to believe, but it is true. And that's CNN, by the way, a report from CNN. I'm sure they did that begrudgingly, but when they come out and say that, there's a good chance it's probably even better than what they're saying.
Oh, it's way better.
Yeah.
It was over the weekend that it came out that it was +18 now, the highest.
Wow.
I think that's higher than anything out there, because no matter what you hear screamed from the left, oh, he can't do this. We're filing lawsuits against all of his executive orders, and we're going to impeach him again, and we're going to get Trump. Well, the people that voted are speaking loudly, and they like this guy because whether you're on the left or not, let me explain something to you, my left friends. We're fed up with you. You know, you're not going by the rules of decorum, the rules of the House. You know, you're making up your own rules. You're not picking up after yourself, and we're done with you. So get on board, or you know what? California wants to succeed from the nation. On Saturday, they filed the paperwork to sit there and become their own country. And so all they need is 500,000 signatures. They'll probably find 500,000 lefties to do it. Then they get to vote on it. And in 2028 is when that vote would be. And if they do, it's bye-bye California.
I don't know whether the state itself can. I think it has to be an amendment. Am I correct? Doesn't it have to be ratified by the other states in some way?
But there's a lot of things that I would worry about that going on, because that's 3 years down the road. And let's just say that they put the measures in place to do something. You know, they have a lot of representative power in the White House right now. If that representative power is going to be a foe to the United States of America, should they have any say during that time? Maybe things that
I don't know how I don't know how, as long as they're following the law, I don't know how you can exclude them from having that say.
You can't. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it is a very precarious thing, and you know, but there's a lot of there. I mean, we can't neglect them right now. Because
what's interesting, nobody's talking about this, but it is true. There's a large faction of people in California who are conservative, who want to break away from California. What do they want to call it? New California?
That's what I was saying. You know what? The liberal body is in Los Angeles and San Diego. You guys want to be your own thing? Fine, because you're on earthquake fault lines anyway. You know, you take the line and go right down the middle and sit there and carve out your little liberal area. And that's it. I hate to give up land, but that's it. What are you going to do? Because if the rest is conservative,
well,
you know.
I would also say you think you got problems now with the fires, and that you do have problems with the fires in California. Can you imagine if you didn't have the support of the federal government to help you out in cleaning this problem up? You would be like this for maybe decades. Right now, we're talking about 18 months getting the place back into some semblance of normalcy. 18 months. If you've seen the damage that these fires have caused, it's enormous. It's immense.
They want to rebuild the entire city by 2025. So, you know, they want yours and my tax dollars to help fix their problem that they were partially, if not wholly, responsible for. And we got to fix their mess, and then they're going to say, "Hey, thanks a lot, bye-bye."
Yeah. By the way, they're still getting fires popping up. I do believe
San Diego now.
There's a lot of people, Bill, and I happen to believe this is true, who will tell you that they think they're being set. They're being set by people.
I think as of Saturday, there were 7 in San Diego now.
You know, it's
now,
like,
how does that happen?
Well, someone goes along with a torch and lights the underbrush.
I never thought of that. Well, the good news is God's doing what they can, torrential rains. And now they're on the verge of, well, they're not on the verge. They're going mudslides, flash flooding, because there's nothing to stop that flow of the torrential waters pouring down the mountains and coming through the cracks, the creeks, the valleys, everywhere that it can go. So that's what they're on the lookout for now. And I'm sitting there going, what next? An earthquake? Mount Shasta, it used to be a volcano. Is that going to erupt? Is there going to be an earthquake off coast? Which there is one off Oregon that's threatening to erupt any day now. Wow. And that'll bring in a tidal wave. I mean, maybe God's shaking his fist at you guys, you know, because of
what you've done. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you are. Maybe this is a biblical Sodom and Gomorrah. You know.
Well, it's getting back to the first story we talked about with that assassination attempt by that young woman. In all honesty, I hope the president and his people have got the finest security you can find covering this man. Every angle covered, every possibility shored up so that he is totally protected. He's a hard man to secure. I know that. You saw him in North Carolina hugging strangers, shaking hands with people that he didn't know. I mean, it's hard to protect this guy. You have to. You have to.
Well, I'll mention something else that you didn't see, but well, let's talk about California. He was out there visiting. Melania's there. Melania's going everywhere. She was seen and recorded talking to residents there, people that didn't speak English, spoke Spanish, and she comforted them and spoke to them in their native tongue.
Yeah. She speaks Spanish. She speaks six languages.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
So the left has been talking, oh, she's dumb this, dumb that. She's not a dummy.
I saw her embracing a stranger, give her a kiss on the cheek. No, this is a compassionate person.
Yeah.
Although I do think there's a reason. I think that she's also with the president because it's easier to protect them. Yeah, when they're both together.
Going back to the lady about the gun thing and the call to arms, she's calling people to arms. She was very public and vocal about it, and she got on social media, and we see her face. We heard her voice. We know who she is. But what you don't know, and even though I say that left is in the minority, there's somebody out there that's a twisted F that just wants to sit there and make their mark in history in their name. That's my sign. That's my calling. And there are people that are wacky on the left that don't really post or do a lot of social stuff. They're going, that's my message. That's it. She's the one. She gave me my instructions. So her little post there could set off a cell of idiots that will sit there and you don't know who they are, where they are, but they're going to try.
She mentioned a group from some town, and I had no idea what she's talking about. She named somebody, and I was thinking, is that a signal?
Well, that could be. I mean, the point is, I would, and I know they are. They're going to have to take it seriously. I think every time Trump steps out of the door of the White House, they have to take note because there's always a target on the president's head, no matter who or what country he's from. There's a target. He's a target. Our country especially, and Donald Trump especially, because he only, he not only represents change for our nation, he represents global change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that,
as a matter of fact, interesting that you should say that. Maloney from Italy, the young woman who's the prime minister,
right?
Emboldened by Trump's, forthright movement of these people out of the country, she started doing the same thing. She's flying illegal immigrants to Albania to a way station there, and then they'll be repatriated to their own home countries. This is from Italy. She's feeling like she has a fellow traveler in the conservative world out there. It's interesting times, folks, but I do believe that Trump has got to be protected at all costs, and I'm sure that this lady, by the way, she posted it on Facebook, and apparently people know who she is. They did mention in the article she's a staunch Kamala Harris supporter, so apparently if they know that much about her, they know who she is and where she is. We talked earlier about the fact that AI listens to every single thing that you say. And I would venture to say that if AI can do that, then some government agency somewhere can isolate certain things, certain people, and actually use that to their advantage to get more information on them. Interesting note to pass along. Vice President Vance was on, I think it was CBS, with Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation. He was on an interview, and Margaret Brennan, who is, most of these network correspondents or anchors have large opinions of themselves. They think, my God, I'm the smartest person in this room. Even if it's not true, they believe it. They believe that they are the smartest in the room. Margaret Brennan is that kind of person. When in reality, she's a numbskull. Now, I do believe this. She's out of New York, and New York is almost like an isolated world. I worked in New York. Even back in the late 70s when I was there was an attitude in New York, and I've even told friends of mine who worked there, there's an attitude in New York that there's civilization, which is New York, and then there's the wilderness, the hinterlands, as they would say, the wild country. And that usually started at the border of New York and Westchester County. Anybody beyond the border of New York City was to be dismissed. They weren't serious people. And that's the attitude they have in New York. She has that attitude. She tells the vice president that the illegals that Biden and his morons allowed into this country were heavily vetted. Heavily vetted, meaning they did background checks on all those people who ran across the border. Well, here's what J.D. Vance had to say.
When you talked to us in August, you said, I don't think we should abandon anybody who's been properly vetted and helped us. Do you stand by that?
Well, Margaret, I don't agree that all these immigrants or all these refugees have been properly vetted. In fact, we know that there are cases of people who allegedly were properly vetted and then were literally planning terrorist attacks on our country. That happened during the campaign, if you may remember. So clearly not all of these foreign nationals have been properly vetted.
But there are 30,000 people in the pipeline, Afghan refugees.
But my primary concern as the vice president, Margaret, is to look after the American people. And now that we know that we have vetting problems with a lot of these refugee programs, we absolutely cannot unleash thousands of unvetted people into our country.
These people are vetted.
Good.
These people are vetted.
Just like the guy who planned a terrorist attack in Oklahoma a few months ago, he was allegedly properly vetted, and many people in the media and the Democratic Party said that he was properly vetted. Clearly he wasn't. I don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted, and because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country, and I think most Americans agree with me.
I think he's absolutely correct.
Oh, no, he is. And she's sitting there going, oh, but they were vetted. They were vetted. All right, where is your proof for each single person that they were all vetted? There's no proof. It's just, they vetted them. Yeah, right. There was no vetting of these people, none whatsoever.
Right.
Look at the raid that went on, where was it, in Colorado, where they raided a place, and then there was I guess an apartment complex or something like that, and they found all the guns and everything else in there, along with the Venezuelan gang. But
that was the apartment building, I believe, that we have video of from a couple of months ago, where they actually took over the building. The gangs went in there and they were carrying like it looked like what do they call M16s or AR-15s or something. They had guns like that.
But she said they were all vetted. Maybe just one wasn't. Well, wait a minute. Your numbers just went to hell with that story.
Yeah.
So if it did with that, it means you're a newscaster with an agenda and you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. They also, in this interview on Face the Nation, talked about how the Catholic bishops were upset because apparently the ICE people who are doing their raids are not paying particular attention as to whether if these people are going into churches to hide, thinking that they're a safe refuge, the ICE officials are saying, no, that's not going to cut any mustard. They're here illegally. They're going back. And there's a lot of people, especially bishops, are saying, you can't do that. It's a house of God. It's a war. Listen, it is a house of God. And if anybody's disrespecting it, it's the criminal who's going in there to hide from the police. And I want to point this out to you, bishops, that if a guy commits a murder a block down the street from a church, and then he decides, I'm going to go into that church and seek refuge because I don't want to go to jail. Do you think they're not going to arrest the murderer in that church? Of course, they're going to go in and get the guy. And if they don't do that, then then you have it.
The church should not give sanctuary to a criminal.
Right.
Now, is it the the preacher's job or priest's job to rat them out? Well, that's an entirely different question. But
give them spiritual comfort and maybe hear their confession and ask God to forgive them for their sins. But understand that they're going to be sent along on, the authorities are going to take them on their way.
And just because today that building is a holy building, the house of God, don't do something illegal yourself, aiding and abetting a criminal. And also, I could sit there and hold services in this room, and at that point in time, it's a house of God. Sell this place, and all of a sudden somebody comes in here and goes, I'm going to turn it into a brothel. It's no longer a house of God. It's just a building. Well, it's brick and mortar. It is
How many these old churches have been turned into like restaurants and stuff like that in some of the major cities? J.D. Vance had some thoughts on this. Listen.
But let me just address this particular issue, Margaret, because as a practicing Catholic, I was actually heartbroken by that statement. And I think that the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops needs to actually look in the mirror a little bit and recognize that when they receive over $100 million to help resettle illegal immigrants, are they worried about humanitarian concerns, or are they actually worried about their bottom line? We're going to enforce immigration law. We're going to protect the American people. Yeah. Donald Trump promised to do that, and I believe the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, if they're worried about the humanitarian costs of immigration enforcement, let them talk about the children who have been sex trafficked because of the wide open border of Joe Biden.
You personally
let them talk
support
about
them going into
people like
schools
Laken Riley
churches.
who were brutally murdered. I support us doing law enforcement against violent criminals, whether they're illegal immigrants or anybody else, in a way that keeps us safe.
And I would also say that as a practicing Catholic I would also say that I'm sick of these phony leftist clergymen in my faith who use the faith as an excuse to do leftist nonsense. God said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. He believed that, if there was a civil offense or a civil problem, it could be dealt civilly. And if God's not a fool, God is, and you can't play games with using religion to benefit your agenda, And what J.D. Vance said is true. These people have, if they committed a crime and they're hiding in a church, ICE is going to go in there. They're going to politely put them into handcuffs. They will respect the location unless somebody pulls a gun, and then they're going to escort that person out with dignity and respect for the holy place. But that person is going to go to jail. That person is going to be arrested. Otherwise, you're going to have every illegal. Like, for example, if all of a sudden it was determined that ICE is going to be raiding a lot of areas in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, hypothetically, right? And the word got out to the illegal community that the safe place was your local church. All of a sudden, the churches would fill up like Christmas Eve Mass. It would be filled to the brim, and they would be there. And of course, the churches would have to feed them and clothe them and take care of their needs, right? But that's not going to happen. Under this administration, they will respect the location. They will respect the house of worship, but they will also take the criminal element out of that house of worship. And you may say, well, what if they're just illegal people with their families? You keep forgetting, and people keep diminishing this fact that any illegal in this country who is here is a lawbreaker, has broken our laws. The mere fact that they've come across the border and in some cases evaded apprehension to be here, right? Mm-hmm. That's crime. And by the way, sneak into Mexico someday. If you are a big leftist, don't check in at the border crossing. Sneak into Mexico and have them find that you're there illegally and see what happens to you. You're going to spend a couple of years in one of their prisons. There's a big difference.
Look, you walk freely through the United States. Whether you believe it or not, you do. I don't see military armed guards. You might see patrolmen cruising streets, and they're looking for tickets and stuff. They have quotas they have to do. Don't say they don't. My son's a cop, so I know. But either way, you go to Mexico, because I've been to Mexico before on several occasions.
Yeah.
And I could walk into the supermarket and there'd be some guy in his green uniform and his helmet on, and there was police there too, but they have military people in there patrolling, looking all the time. Been to Germany. You go through checkpoints there, and it's been a while, but either way, there are people, military, guarding. We are probably the most free place you can be, and willy-nilly walk around and go do whatever you want, because we're not that into your business. Democrats would like to change that, but
I was thinking also, Bill, it wasn't too long ago they asked Biden, why don't you arrest these people? And he said, I would if Congress gave me more powers, Well, Trump didn't wait for any extra powers. Trump got into office, issued executive orders, and bang, all of a sudden these people are being flown back to their home country. And this is just the beginning. I saw a video, Bill, on Friday. I don't know whether you saw it or not. It showed the highways going south into Mexico, around San Diego, and they're wall-to-wall cars. These people who are in this country illegally, a lot of them have decided it's better for me to get in my car and go home.
Yeah, and you know what? They didn't have cars when they came here.
That's right. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, they didn't have cars when they came here, probably not driver's licenses. We gave them to them.
Right.
And we gave them the money to buy the car. Well, Biden gave them the money. Does he know that he did that? Does he know that he let them in? Does he know anything of what he did?
No, he's still vacationing somewhere.
Well, the funny thing is, I think it was CNN that reported on Saturday saying, Biden secretly gave himself a pardon.
Well, I heard the same thing, Bill. Yes. People you may not realize it until after they try to file charges against him.
Well, the question is, does he have to do the pardon while he's in the White House? Can he do it afterwards? I think it has to be while he's still president. But, all he's got to have somebody do is say, weren't you in the elevator with me when I said I pardoned myself? And you're my witness.
But here's the thing: they don't have to announce a pardon. They announce
they do not.
They announce the family pardons, but they don't have to announce his or Jill's.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't.
And I'm sure he did. They have the backup that if anything were ever filed, well, I knew this day was coming and I didn't want to, but I had to give myself a pardon.
Yeah, right. Yes. They were going to. There would be retribution against me.
Well, excuse me.
Hey, another interesting thing happened over the weekend. I thought this was interesting, Bill. If Denmark decides to sell Greenland, it will have to offer it to the UK. You have the same thing. It would have to offer it to England.
First right of refusal.
Yeah, it's a 1917 agreement apparently that Woodrow Wilson made with the Danish and with the English leaders of the time.
Didn't he try to buy it?
But I can't see, with all of the financial problems that Great Britain has right now, and they have a number of, look at the problem they have with the immigration. Are they going to be able to fork over enough money to own or buy Greenland? I doubt it.
They'll probably do it on credit or something. Look, they'll find some stupid way to get around it, but the people of Greenland, the overwhelming majority, they want to be a part of the United States.
Well, the other thing is this, Bill. There's some talk that the Canadians actually have dibs on it too, because of the proximity of Greenland to Canada. But I don't think. I think we're dealing with a guy, by the way, in Trump, who has spent his whole life negotiating deals. And you can't tell me that, Keir Starmer or whatever in England or Justin Trudeau in Canada is going to have the negotiation and bartering abilities and skills that Trump has. No. Trump, I think, has already thought around this before he ever started talking about this. I don't believe Trump is the kind of guy who starts to open his mouth, even though people think that's the case. I think he's done his homework before he started talking about it. For example, I think Panama, he thought about that over the 4 years. I think Greenland, he's thought about that over the 4 years. So I don't think it's been something that just popped into his head like, hey, how would you like to have Greenland? I think it's something which he's researched, and his son went up there like a couple of weeks after he first mentioned it.
Took the Trump plane and was there. Yeah, they're working on it, and don't write it off, because
as it is right now, the United States is the number one employer in Greenland because of the Air Force Base in Thule. It's called. I mean, I refer to it as Thule Air Force Base, but there's another name for it which is more specific to the area, and I can't remember what it is, but it's in Thule, Greenland, and they are the big employer in Greenland. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
You know who else? I mean, there's a lot of money being thrown at the garbage country, Puerto Rico. There's investors going in now, buying up all the land and everything and redeveloping the beaches to clean them up and turn it into like a second Hawaii. And I'm like going, and there's talk, they're kind of like the adoptive whatever you call Puerto Rico. Are they going to make that official at some point in time?
I doubt it. They've talked about it, but I don't know, Bill. There are pros and cons. They make it sound like every Puerto Rican wants to be a state. In reality, they are citizens now, but I don't believe they had to pay income tax. There are pros and cons to being a territory as opposed to a state. Yes, they have delegates and stuff like that in the Congress, but they don't have representatives.
But there may come a time to where they may have to pony up and pay taxes.
I think
then again,
I think the IRS, by the way, has some big facility down there in Puerto Rico, of all places.
Well, it could be. I mean, there's a lot. I don't know. Look, the tax thing remains a big question in Vegas. The no tax on tips was a big thing. Talking about no taxes altogether, that's a big thing because Trump was more focused on tariffs than he is on taxes, which is what the United States used to do. We made our money and we were very rich, thank you very much, by tariffs.
Senator Lindsey Graham, who has always been a rhino. First of all, the guy loves a war. So here's what you can count on from Lindsey Graham. You can count on him not to be enthusiastic about there being peace in the Ukraine. That's not going to happen. I'm just telling you up front right now that Lindsey Graham wants that to continue. If it's a war and it's going on, you can count on him to want it to continue. But he was asked about the January 6th prisoner release that Trump issued, the blanket pardons. Now, understand that a good number of these people, a large number of these people in the prisons have been there for years already, for years. And it's not good enough for the left or the rhinos. Lindsey Graham is a rhino. I want you to hear how he walks around the answer he gives on Meet the Press. Listen.
Let's turn now to President Trump's decision to give blanket pardons to everyone who was convicted of crimes on January 6th, including the 172 people who pleaded guilty to assaulting law enforcement officers. Even his own vice president said, quote, if you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. Do you believe that President Trump was wrong to issue these blanket pardons to the January 6th
Number one,
defendants?
He had the legal authority to do it, but I fear that you will get more violence. Pardoning the people who went into the Capitol and beat up a police officer violently, I think was a mistake because it seems to suggest that's an okay thing to do. Kamala Harris wanted to raise bail money for people burning down Minneapolis. Biden pardoned half his family going out the door. I think most Americans, if this continues, to see this as an abuse of the pardon power, that we'll revisit the pardon power of the president if this continues. But as to pardoning violent people who beat up cops, I think that's a mistake.
So you think it was a mistake by President Trump to issue these blanket pardons? What message does it convey to law enforcement? And if you conveyed that directly to Mr. Trump?
There's really been no better supporter of law enforcement in general. And there are a lot of people who supported President Trump and law enforcement didn't like this. But he said it during the campaign. He's not tricking people. You know, Biden promised not to pardon his family. He did. Trump said, I'm going to pardon these people. So the fact that he did it is no surprise. But I'll be consistent here. I don't like the idea of bailing people out of jail or pardoning people who burn down cities and beat up cops, whether you're Republican or a Democrat.
Okay, so understand something. Trump didn't surprise people with what he did. He promised it during his rallies. The other thing I would point Lindsey Graham to the story we had a little while ago from CNN that talked about Trump's popularity. That would include, by the way, the release and the pardons of those January 6ers. Most people who are paying attention know that maybe there's a couple in there who deserve some kind of punishment because maybe they did something wrong. But the vast majority of them did nothing wrong. You had people who were walking through the Capitol like they were on a tour bus tour, okay? So don't give us this nonsense, Lindsey. That and the other thing is this: I'm tired of the narrative from the left about how the rioters beat up the police, and that it was the Boylan person, that Boylan lady, who was stomped and beaten with batons and murdered in the tunnel in front of the Capitol. That's hardly ever talked about. And then, of course, they have Ashley Babbitt, who was, for no good reason, shot in the throat and killed by a cop who was behind a door. He was a locked door. He was not in any danger. They weren't grabbing him by the scruff of the neck. He just pulled his gun and shot.
Well, actually, I think he had his sights on her at all times with his gun. From what I understand from somebody saying, he was intent on shooting her. He waited for the moment. It's premeditated. And you look at January 6th and how the accusations flew and everything happened, and even the sham committee, it was never properly vetted with what was, it was a one-sided, I don't know what you want to call the story, but it was creative writing with this thing. We never really got to the truth and the bottom of it. And, we like to sit there and take lawfare. Lawyers have gotten out there, and they impose justice on people. And it was always my understanding that the way the system was originally written was that you had a trial, and for the most part, you might be guilty of the crime, but be able to walk away from the crime. But the punishment was the trial and the accusations to make you afraid of, well, wow, if I do this again, I'm in trouble. That next time they're going to get me, and I don't want to go through that again.
There were some people some prisoners who have been in jail and not been in front of a judge?
Right, but that's what I'm saying is you're entitled to, a fair trial in front of your peers.
Speedy, Bill, a speedy
trial.
Yeah.
And, you've got to be convicted beyond a shadow of a doubt, but that doesn't happen. It can be implied. You got civil courts, federal courts, and we've taken the true meaning of our judicial system, and it was to give you, it had second chances built in. It didn't mean that you could get away with a heinous crime, but it meant for certain things.
The other thing is that you could. There are other guys who were prisoners who are suing now because they were mistreated while they were in jail. Some of them were beaten up. Some of them were given rations that were food that was spoiled. Some of them were in cells that had no heat. These are American citizens who were locked away with no justice, true justice.
Something. The prison system and I've never been in jail or prison, but I've helped with a few things, and I've visited, and I can tell you firsthand that these people that are in there, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, they'll clean up the food when the cameras are there, but on a day-to-day basis, they get filthy stuff because some of the people that are running the prisons ought to be behind the bars themselves.
A lot of them are sadists, really.
Yeah, and they're giving them moldy bread where they have to pick the mold off and just eat the part that still may be good. It's old, rotten food.
There are rodents.
Our prison system sucks.
Rodents?
And I'm saying that as a just for the humanity of it. We are not a Christian sane country in that regard.
Well, I'll tell you what we didn't do is we didn't treat these people with some semblance of dignity.
Yeah, there's no dignity.
Nope. You check that at the door when they put you in cuffs.
So right now, if you're going, well, they need to be, no, they don't. Go in unannounced. You check out the facility.
Well, they won't let you in. They won't
let you in. And okay, well, that in and of itself.
Well, do you know why I say that?
Something.
I'll tell you why I say that, because early on when they started arresting these people, there was a delegation of Congress people who went down to knock on the door and to tour the facility at the D.C. Gitmo, they call it, D.C. Gitmo, and they wouldn't let them in.
No, they won't. And, oh, by the way, you might go, well, they committed a heavy-duty crime to be in there. Let me tell you something about the law, just in case you don't know. There are so many laws on the book, even traffic laws, all the way down to traffic laws. If a police officer wants to pull you over, there is a law that you may not know that you violated. We have all violated a law that may not be known to you. That's your fault.
Right.
A lot of these police officers don't even know all those laws. So if they want to lock you up and wrap you up for a while, it's
that's
in
why
a book somewhere.
you never, ever talk back to a police officer.
Right.
If you get stopped, no matter whether you're right or wrong, it's yes, sir, no, sir, of course, sir. You do nothing to irritate because you don't know who you're dealing with. My father was a criminal lawyer. He a trial lawyer. He did big cases. He was a DA, and he used to tell me, "You get pulled over, Jim. You just be polite as polite can be, and you do exactly what they tell you to do." He told me about a story about over in a neighboring town. A cop pulled over a guy. The kid talked back to him. The cop shot him, and the cop got off. But everyone knew the cop had shot him intentionally, and yet
couldn't prove it.
They couldn't prove it.
Yeah, and you wonder why. I don't know if it's the highest, but it's one of the highest suicide rates, and that's a police officer, because at some point in time, in the rivers of their mind, the bad that they have done catches up with them, and they're going, it's easier just to take the revolver and play Russian roulette with a loaded gun, fully loaded gun. These.
There are a lot of great men and women who are policemen out there.
They're good guys.
No, there are a lot of great men and women who are police officers. Trust me, I've met them in my life. They've done some amazing things, and they are to be commended. But like any other job in the world, there is good and there's bad everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's the bad that cause problems. You just can't tell the difference because the good and the bad, they travel in the same cars sometimes, and they wear the same uniforms. So my dad used to say, until you can tell the difference, you just maintain your respect for them, and you give them all of the deference that you can give them, so that you don't cause any further issue. He said, nothing you do, a traffic stop for whatever reason, whatever you do, it's not a big deal. We can get through that once you're out of the situation. But when you're in the situation, when you're being stopped, you give them respect. Because, by the way, they don't know who you are. The other thing is, you have to remember that police officers, they pull over a guy on a dark road, and you've seen the videos probably on YouTube. Mm-hmm. They walk up and politely ask the guy to roll down the window. The next thing you know, bang, they're getting shot. This is the kind of world they live in too. It's not easy. So, and they're nervous. A lot of these young people are very nervous when they come up to your car. All of a sudden, I feel like I'm talking to my kids again, but it's true. It's true.
Oh, no. I mean, look, they got a tough job, so I get some of the problems that they may have. But there are people that get into law enforcement only because they see it as a license to go ahead and kick ass, break bones and take names. They don't even take the names. They just kick ass and break bones. There are guys like that in all walks of life.
Before we forget, I wanted to play this for you. This happened like on Friday. You ever notice, Bill, on the weekend, the big news like on Friday, by the time we get to the show on Monday, it's like old news because something has happened over the weekend. Mm-hmm. But this was Pete Hegseth's tie-breaking vote in the Senate. Being submitted by J.D. Vance. Listen.
Are there any senators in the chamber who wish to vote or change a vote? If not, on this vote, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the nomination is confirmed.
It's interesting. J.D. Vance said afterwards, he said, when I left the Senate, I thought I was done voting in the Senate. But no, one of the first things he does is cast another tie-breaking vote in the Senate. So Pete Hegseth is now the Secretary of Defense, and already he's casting a shadow. He's putting a footprint down. People are starting to see that he is what he says he is. He came out, I guess it was yesterday, and said this DEI stuff, it's out of the military. It's done. Yep. We're going to start being the military again, which I think is
Kristi
great.
Noem, she was sworn in private ceremony, I guess a home ceremony because they had a scheduling problem by Clarence Thomas on Saturday. So I guess look for her to, because it seems like everybody that Trump has put in has hit the ground running, and the left media and the left just doesn't know what to do.
Well, Bill, what's interesting about Kristi Noem is she was made the, Director of Homeland Security.
Yes.
So maybe the reason why she got sworn in private, in secrecy somewhere, was because there are already problems being thrown at her, threats being thrown at her. This is the world we live in, folks, I'm afraid. This is what's happening. God bless Kash Patel. He's going to be, front and center this week. They're already talking about him.
What about RFK? When does that happen, Junior?
I think it's this week also.
Well, now this is an interesting story. I'll have to forward it to you. I think this comes from InfoWars, where Bill Gates scandal, Gates Foundation, dark money group, Arabella, caught secretly running fake, I just closed that thing, running fake medical petition with over 17,000 signatures, I guess they're fake, of fake doctors targeting confirmation of RFK Jr. Bill Gates,
no surprise,
doesn't want him in because, what would that do to all of his medical research and the Gates Foundation? He still wanted in India?
Probably, but he doesn't care.
His research that killed children?
No, he doesn't care. He's a character. We'll just leave it at that without getting into specifics. I think that the leash is they're running out of leash, these globalists, and they're starting to feel the pressure like they've never felt it before. Trump spoke in front of Davos at the World Economic Forum. He didn't travel there. He did it on a Zoom call. He pulled no punches. Absolutely no punches. He called out the Bank of America for dropping the bank accounts of conservatives, and people were like surprised. Bank of America dropped conservative accounts? Well, over the weekend, James Comer was asked this by Maria Bartiromo. Listen.
Are you investigating whether or not U.S. banks are debanking conservatives?
Yes, we are. We've heard numerous instances of conservatives being debanked. And what we want to know is this a process of the bank's ESG policy? Is this our government stepping in, like what we found with Twitter and Facebook, where the government stepped in and said they wanted certain conservatives deplatformed and censored and certain conservative content removed? We want to know, again, is this the government involvement? Another another dirty trick by Joe Biden's administration, or is this just bad liberal policy that discriminates against conservatives by the banks?
Wow. So you have evidence of some banks debanking conservatives.
Yes, especially people that were involved in different energy-type businesses and things like that, as well as very well-spoken or outspoken conservative activists. So there are numerous instances, enough to open an investigation. Again, is this ESG policy, which is discriminatory? And ironically, the Democrats have passed all this banking legislation that prohibits discrimination. Is this discriminatory because of ESG, or is it the government? Are the bank examiners, as President Trump hinted in his remarks you played earlier, are these bank examiners with a wink and a nod saying, don't let this person bank at your bank?
Well, this is a very important question because we know what happened with social media. 1,000 people from government agencies were working with social media to censor Americans and censor conservatives, certainly. What will be the impact to these banks? What should these banks expect in the coming months from your office?
Well, they're going to be asked a lot of questions, and I will say this for the banks. During the Biden influence peddling investigation, the banks were the one entity that did cooperate with us. So I expect that the banks will cooperate with our questions, and hopefully we can get some answers. Number one, find out if our government was involved in this, if this is another side operation by the Biden administration where they were attacking conservatives. At the very least, we want to change this. You know, we're not talking about debanking, meaning they denied a loan. That happens every day in the banking world. This is just opening up savings accounts and checking accounts. I mean, this is unheard of to do this, and it's against the law. The laws, ironically, that the Democrats created against discrimination.
Okay, let me move on to the pardons because it was 20 minutes before President Trump was sworn in on Monday. It was 20 minutes to 12 on January 20th when President Biden announced he was pardoning siblings minutes before leaving the White House. The pardon applies to James Biden, his brother, Sarah Jones Biden, Valerie Biden Owens, John Owens, Francis Biden. The White House announced that his family could be subject to, quote, politically motivated investigations after he leaves office. Your reaction?
This is an admission of guilt by Joe Biden. Everybody in America knows it. We said early on in the investigation, I went on your show many times, Maria, and you were one of the heroes that allowed me to have a platform to give the American people the truth, that 10 different Biden family members were involved in receiving incremental payments that had been laundered through a series of shell companies. He's pardoned 6 of them. He's pardoned 6 of those family members right here, including the 5 he pardoned at the last minute, and then his son, Hunter Biden. Again, this is an admission of guilt. Why would Joe Biden do this in the very last act when he knew the media would be focused on Trump's swearing in and all of that? He didn't have the courage or the guts to have a press conference to announce it, and he said he was worried about investigations. The only investigation in the world that ever mentioned those spouses was our House Oversight Committee investigation that listed the 10 different family members that received incremental payments.
Well, Congressman, you did a very good job. You identified the bank statements, you identified whistleblowers, and you did a very deep investigation. We all covered it. Thank you for the compliment. You wrote a book about it, All the President's Money, by James Comer, which is out now. Congratulations on the book. But I've got to tell you, my audience is a little disappointed. So with these pardons, should we just expect, after all that work you put into it, after all the conversations we've had, they got away with it?
I certainly hope not. The ball's going to be in Pam Bondi's court. We're communicating with her people right now. I've had a good meeting with Kash Patel. One thing I'm confident is going to happen, and you saw that with John Radcliffe, we're going to hold people in the government accountable that were involved in the cover-up. He's already held the 51 intelligence officials that lied to the American people when they said the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, when most of them, in fact, knew that it was not Russian disinformation. Now we want to get the people that were were involved in the cover-ups, because what we found in our investigation, and I write about it extensively in my book, is that there were 4 different agencies investigating the Bidens: the IRS, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. And obviously they wanted to get to Joe Biden, because none of this money would be coming into to the president's son or brother were it not for Joe Biden. Every time they got ready to ask Joe Biden, they were told to stand down by a deep state actor. I want those people held accountable. And then with respect to the Bidens, I don't think these preemptive pardons would hold up in court. I would like to see a jury that would be sympathetic to what he said. We're pardoning you for anything you may have done over the past decade pertaining to influence peddling. That's baloney, and no jury in America would buy that, in my opinion.
So you think the preemptive pardons are not legitimate?
I don't, but there are a lot better legal minds than mine, I'm sure. But, I don't think the average person that works hard and pays taxes has much sympathy for a president that in his last act in office pardoned his entire family for financial public corruption and didn't have the guts to tell anybody why he did it.
Maria Bartiromo with James Comer talking about a lot of things. But what was interesting about those people who were deplatformed from the banks, people don't realize this, but Melania Trump was one of those people. Melania Trump lost her bank account. She apparently, when she got out of office, started a small business on the side and opened a bank account with, it wasn't with Bank of America, it was with a smaller bank, but they literally deplatformed them, essentially closed down her accounts because she was conservative and she was married to Donald Trump, which it gives you an idea of who's trying to run our monetary system in this country,
And probably why you see, because this is not the only attack on Melania. And I think, she was more of a backseat. She didn't want to get involved. She was kind of a backseat first lady. She was there when she needed to be, but she didn't want to make any waves. And they have tried to put the screws to her during the time she was there with him. And afterwards, they've tried to divide them, separate them. They've attacked his and her son. They've done everything they can. And now you see her everywhere and on the campaign trail. Well, the campaign's over. Now you see her traveling with him, talking to people, hugging people, consoling people. And I'm like going, and that's not, they talked about how great Jill Biden was. And I mean, she wasn't great. And she's good.
He's already done light years more stuff than Biden did in his 4 years.
Yeah, in 4 days he did more than in 4 days he did more than Reagan did in 8 years, and that was a couple of weeks ago. So, and he's done a lot more. Every day he's dropping new executive orders down. I guess he's done another one here that he just dropped over the weekend. I forget which one it was, but he's got so many things he wants to do that he's just doing.
The media is actually upset that he's going at such a fast pace because
they can't keep up.
They can't. They're exhausted. They're exhausted. We can't do this. They had Sleepy Joe for 4 years. You can miss his press conference and miss nothing. And now Trump is giving a press conference every time the bus stops. And I do worry about when I hear stories like the very first story that we did today. It worries me because there are people out there who are triggered by nonsense like that, and they have to be there has to be consequences for stuff like that. You can't threaten somebody's life. You just can't do that, especially the president of the United States. The repercussions would be enormous. People don't understand that. People think, well, if anything happened, no. This is a different world we live in. The hopes and the dreams of millions of Americans depend upon this man's actions. And if he's injured or killed, that's going to affect the country in such a negative way. Such a negative way. We are a peaceful country, but this is something they cannot afford. God help it if he had died in Butler. If he had died in Butler, there would have been a problem then, and he wasn't even president. You know?
As it was so poetically put during the inauguration, he is the millimeter president.
Yep.
And I like that, because
the millimeter man, yeah.
The millimeter man, because, saved by the grace of God. And if you're not a believer, you know what? Stew on that for a while. Saved by the grace of God. And because even he realizes, I'm not saying he's a saint. Far from it. So are you, my friend, and so am I.
Well, if this nutcase down in Texas, wherever she is threatening Trump on Facebook, can you imagine how the cartels feel about President Trump right now? He's gone to war with the cartels. Do you think they're sitting around saying, there'll be no consequences? They have millions upon millions of dollars to work with. Yes, Bill.
He has declared them domestic terrorists.
Yes.
And the left goes, how could you declare them domestic terrorists? Think about that for a minute. These people are responsible for killing our children and adults.
Yes.
They're killing us. And you're sitting there saying they are not terrorists?
By the way, if you don't think that Trump has an effect, I want to mention something which floored me over the weekend. Harris Faulkner actually was the first to come out with this. 80,000 children out of the 300,000 that have been trafficked, they have found 80,000 children. They have already, in 4 days, rescued 80,000 children, which says to me they, meaning ICE, knew where they were being held. They had all the information.
All the time.
They were waiting.
You know why?
They were waiting to jump.
Yeah. I mean, our government, I've always said it, is the number one child trafficker. Yeah, facilitator. So they're number one. I mean, look at Kamala Harris, Florida Democrat Party official and president of LGBTQ group, arrested on child porn charges after sending child porn to an undercover officer. And there it is. I'm with Harris. Is the big, the banner thing. By the way, Kamala is number 4 on the list for contenders to run in 2028.
All I can say is good luck finding financial backers, Kamala. You spent $1 billion, 20 million, and the 20 million they can't find. When you spend $1 billion, 20 million sounds insignificant. It ain't.
Well, Newsom's on the list too.
Well, based upon his performance in Southern California with the fires, I would say he has a snowball's chance in hell of being elected.
Fetterman on the list too.
Well, Fetterman. Did you see how Fetterman went to the inauguration?
Yeah.
He dressed up in his shorts and his sweatshirt, his hoodie.
And Shapiro's number 1 on their list.
Oh, really? Of Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Well, he has the more traditional appearance. He looks good in a suit, and he can sound articulate.
He's a liberal. He is a lefty.
Oh, I know he
liberal.
is. Not to be trusted.
Speaking of Pennsylvania, hey, I guess congratulations to the Eagles. They're in the Super Bowl. Kansas City again, but there was a kind of a weird call. We'll just do the sports thing.
Was it fourth and inches or something like that, and the referee?
The ball was on the damn. It was mostly over the line.
Yes.
The 2 line judges, one way on the backside, one way on the front side, 2 different perspectives, and the guys in the booth going,
it's a done deal. Yeah,
it's a done deal.
It's a first down.
Let's give it to Kansas City so they can win the game.
The other ththing I heard today was that, and it's true, people are sick of these 2 teams being in the Super Bowl. It's like, I guarantee. Now, mark my words. I really believe this. They will have one of the lowest viewership of any Super Bowl in maybe 10 years this time around. People are not going to be paying attention.
The Eagles got there twice. They won one, lost one, right?
Right.
So, I'm okay with that. Look how many times the Steelers were there. Look how many times the 49ers were there. You look at all of them, the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
But Kansas City.
It's like a machine. They're like a machine.
How? No. You got to wonder, because even last year, there were some controversial calls. And this year,
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think, and this is just two guys talking now,
all right,
do you put it beyond the possibility that there is some, I don't know, I don't want to say it fixed, but because that sounds too, might they be encouraged, the referees, to go a certain way? Not necessarily fixed, but it would be really nice if Kansas City won again. Or it would be really nice if the Eagles won again.
Well, it means the damn the trophy and the rings don't mean squat.
Well, they don't.
They don't. No.
The other thing is this, folks, with all due respect, and I love football. I love to follow my teams. I do. I'll be the first to tell you I'm there watching every game. I'm more into college football now, I think, than I was professional football. I really am. I think college football is a lot more honest. But I don't know. Everyone talks about the Super Bowl like it's the second coming of Christ, right? They talk, the Super Bowl, and there'll be a big build-up, and everybody will make it sound like a national holiday. Then the Super Bowl comes by, and then, honest to God, folks, 2 weeks later, you can't remember who won the Super Bowl. It's like, who won the Super Bowl? Oh, it was Kansas City. Oh, yeah, I think. Was it the Eagles? I mean, and then by 6 months later, it's like they're already talking about the next Super Bowl. Forget the one that was last year. That's old news. So, I don't know. I think it's a lot of hype, and I think that the season was great. It was fun to watch the teams play. I'm not terribly disappointed that my team didn't make it. It was just they gave it a good shot. It was fun to watch them. But this build up to the best teams, nah. That's a lot of NFL money-making hype. The most important thing on the Super Bowl broadcast is the commercials. I watch the commercials, and even they're not as funny as they used to be. They used to be hysterical and very clever. Now they're annoying, But
the halftime show is always getting. What's the guy? No, I'm trying to think of the name. Kendrick Lamar. Is it?
It's Hedrick. Hedrick Lamar. And every time I hear that name, I think of Hedy Lamar, the actress from the 40s.
Google his name, and listen to his YouTube songs. Well, they're his songs. They've got the F-bomb, they got the N-bomb, they got the S-bomb, they got every foul name, non-edited. You couldn't play these on the radio, but he's there.
Well, if you did, you'd have
rapper.
3 minutes of silence.
Yeah, well, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 11 seconds. And because, I got a website where I did the thing that had to put the Super Bowl story and, here's where you can get your tickets. We got deals on the tickets and stuff like that. But either way, I'm going like, well, I really can't, even though it's a website, I can't put that song in there. Well, then I'm going to ask you a question here. The other person, a Grammy winner, her name is spelled S-Z-A. Do you know how to pronounce that?
I have no idea. I'm not even going to try. I would say Za.
Well, that's what I would have thought too.
Yeah.
But it's SZA. SZA. Now, some people might call it SZA, but it's SZA. Yeah. I forget now it's actually.
Well, the thing
is,
an
acronym. It's whatever an acronym name.
With all due respect, I mean, they used to have really good entertainers. I mean, even Janet Jackson with her costume failure. For the most part, she's a talented lady, and she went out there and, other than the costume failure, she was pretty good. There were my God, you want to go back 20 years? They had things like with Paul McCartney. Remember Paul McCartney? Mm-hmm. He was great. He was great doing the Super Bowl. You don't get that now. It's like, who cares about these people? It's a great time, really, when halftime shows are on. It's a great time to see what else is on other channels and go get a snack, because the halftime shows are not worth it. And by the way, they ruin the pace of the game, because the halftime show is 45 minutes. So they have 45 minutes of a halftime show. By the time the teams come out again, they're cooled down. They've forgotten what the heck they were doing in the first half. And it's like, oh, my God, are you kidding me? So I don't know. I don't. By the way, seeing that we're talking football, you want to know what's a real waste now? The Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl. It isn't the Pro Bowl game anymore. It's a tag football game. It's a flag football game And then they have like these crazy other games that go on. It's not a real football game. And they did that because they didn't want to hurt the players unnecessarily in a game that means nothing. So because they were getting injuries. Because they were guys who were playing the Pro Bowl like it was a real football game, because it was. Well, they've taken that and they made it into a game show, and it's ridiculous. So, and I blame the clown who runs the NFL. I can't think of his name, but we could go on and on.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it's going to be interesting, the halftime show, because they got all these artists, Grammy winners and whatnot, so I respect that. And, Kendrick Lamar, big-time rapper, but he uses a lot of foul language, but they're going to be singing the national anthem and patriotic stuff and the black national anthem and SZA, or SCA, if you want to call it.
They're going to do the black national anthem?
Yeah, they're doing that. That's part of it now this year.
Oh, my. See, this is divisive, folks. They divide. Are they going to do the Irish national anthem? Irish-American national anthem?
No, because they're just some white guys in skirts. You wouldn't want to do that.
How about the Italian-American national anthem? We're going to have that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you're not going to have that. But I was going to say SZA. Actually, her name is what is it? Selenia Imani Rowe. That's her real name. But she went with this this acronym, and what do they say? It is the Supreme Alphabet. So it's an acronym, and the S standing for sovereign or self. The Z is for zigzag zig, a representation of self-awareness. Zigzag zig. Get it? You know what the A stands for?
No, I don't get it, but it's okay, Bill. I don't. And we don't have to go into a long dissertation. Zigzag
the
zig.
A stands for Allah. There you go. Now you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Got it.
The supreme being. The supreme being. Yes.
Well, it'll be interesting, folks. Once again,
and I'm not
I'd like to find out who the morons are that pick these halftime shows, because the reason why I say that is there are a lot of contemporary country singers who are great, and they're contemporary. Why not have them do a halftime show? So the whole world.
Well, I think this show was decided before I think they thought that the left was going to be in, and they were going to do this, and they were going to push the boundaries a little bit more, and I think they're going to do that. Now, I'm not making fun of SZA's name. As a matter of fact, I actually think it's brilliant marketing, because when you look at the name, what's that? And it makes you, and she actually has a very good voice. She sings very well. Her most recent video, she's nude at the end of it. So you've got foul language and nudity coming to the halftime show at the Super Bowl. No, I doubt they're going to.
It's fun for the whole family. Oh, God. Anyway, hey, buddy, before we get out of here, we should point out that if you're looking for a great cup of coffee, stop by our gift shop, would you? It's rightsideshop.com, rightsideshop.com. We have other things there. We have cups and hats and sweatshirts and T-shirts. As Bill would say,
swag.
Thank you, Bill. See, I told you.
With
to
a
say
Z.
That. Yes.
I'm using.
It's not. It's not swag. It's swag. It has a certain je ne sais quoi to it.
Yeah, I'm using the Supreme Alphabet.
Yes. Of course, he is.
Swag.
Yes.
There's a Z in there too.
And we have Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee in there with the finest Colombian coffee beans. So get them while they're hot, because you may not be getting fine Colombian coffee beans anytime soon if they keep causing an issue with our repatriation of prisoners into Colombia.
Well, you know what? You drink Right Side Coffee, and it will add some swagger in your swag, or some swag in your swagger.
Is that what it does? So you have a swag in your swagger machine.
Don't even go there.
Oh, my God. Anyway, we also, speaking of swag, we have Juan, Jose, and the Border Crossers. They're here. All they do, their entire job, is to sing the jingle of our commercial, and then they go back and spend the rest of the day. What do? They just sit in the corner and brood? Is that what they're doing? Oh, no, I guess they have binoculars. They're looking for ice people.
They recite the Supreme Alphabet. So
I'm sure they do, yes. Diana Ross and the Supreme Alphabet. Anyway.
Well, that's a different alphabet.
Here's Juan, Jose, and the Border Crossers. Guys, if you would.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. Okay, hey, Bill, I think we've just about done it for today's show. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I think it's a wrap. So all there is to do, and I can't say it loud because of the algorithms and everything.
Do it with effect. Do it with feeling. Do it with a certain je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais quoi. Yes. Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.